3,600 leaders were asked in a Harvard Business Review study how self-aware they felt they were. Most failed the test. If I asked you to pop your hand up if you were self-aware, would you? Most of us think we're pretty self-aware. Yet, of all the leaders surveyed, only 10 to 15% actually fit the criteria for self-awareness. The most senior leaders had the lowest self-awareness. Interesting, huh? How well do you know yourself? What about your team? How self-aware are they? In this episode, I'm going to share a makeup-free video from the archives of my leadership development program. In it, I'm going to share with you the 11 best personality profiling tools that are out there and how these can be used to really unlock the hidden power of self-awareness. I'm going to walk you through 6 of my favorites, so stick around to get them all, plus a very special bonus at the end. My hope is that this is going to be a really useful episode for you personally and your self-awareness, but it could be that you watch this to get a bit more of an idea of what kind of personality profiling tool you might fancy using with your team. Because performance skyrockets when teams know themselves, when they know each other, and when they're able to leverage their unique strengths. So let's dive in. So what we're going to do in this session is to discuss some of the power and the pitfalls that are associated with personality profiling. I'm going to share some tools that you can go away and play with yourself. I'm going to provide a little bit of advice around the best way to utilize some of those tools, the ones I found most useful, the one that my clients have found most useful. And it's giving you an option or an invitation for you to navigate some of them in the way that it's going to feel aligned for you. Sound good? Okay, so let's start by talking a little bit about the power of these personality profiling tools. So you will have heard me talk about it many times, but the big power is that self-understanding piece, that self-awareness, that when we can understand ourselves or see ourselves in a certain light, that they can bring. They can also help us be more compassionate to ourselves, but also more compassionate to others. When we can understand why we operate in certain ways and why some other people might be operating in different ways, we can bring empathy, right? It can enable us to make better decisions and more aligned decisions on the basis of who we are and what's actually going to make us feel good or operate in a better way. It can help us learn in a way that's more aligned to us. It can enable us to make better decisions in our career, in our life, that are going to be more aligned to where we're wanting to go. It can also help us understand others, whether or not that's your romantic partners, your family, your friends, your colleagues, your team. Really building an understanding of each other, as well as that understanding of yourself, can massively expand your ability to effectively work together and effectively communicate, whether or not that work is in a personal relationship or in a career relationship. Some of the pitfalls, however, no one wants to be put in a box, right? That is not helpful. Being put in a box can instill limiting beliefs that we have. Having had severe signs of ADHD as an example, I could put myself in the ADHD box and therefore limit myself on some of the areas that become more difficult for people with those ADHD, neurodivergent symptoms, etc. I could put myself in the box, and that could be really empowering because it can help me build empathy and self-compassion for where I am at and what I struggle with more so than other people. But it also could mean that I feel like a victim in certain ways, or that I overplay into it. And that comes into that kind of self-fulfilling prophecies. Personality profiles can oversimplify us. You're a complex being. It can also add in confirmation bias. So things that we already thought about ourselves, we might be like more focused on those rather than ignore the ones that are kind of newer to us. It can confirm what we feel like we already know. It can be misused. So yes, it's an amazing tool to be able to understand your team better, etc. but it could be misused in a hiring context. There could be discrimination associated with leaning too much into personality profiling or making too many decisions on the basis of it. And there's also some data privacy risks that we will talk about a little bit later anyway. The reason I'm so passionate about personality profiling and tools comes from, this is my family. It comes from feeling quite out of place in my own family and not quite understanding why that was, just feeling different. And actually, when I shifted, not only within my family, but in my career, I felt sort of out of place, different, even at uni and definitely at school. I never really understood why I felt so different, why I didn't feel like I necessarily fit in the context. And there were also some things that came up, like whilst I was at Sainsbury's, one of my bosses pulled me aside, and I was extremely high performing at the time, absolutely smashing all my metrics. And he said, Chloe, I think you're really underperforming because you're lacking empathy. Your team are afraid of you and you need to do something about it because that's frankly not on. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I was so shocked by that experience. I never wanted my team to feel like that. But and I had that awareness was such a powerful motivator to be able to make change. The reason that relates to personality profiling and those stories is I did this test called Myers-Briggs. And so if you're familiar with it, well, you can go and do it by going on 16personalities.com. And this test, and I say a lot of things changed my life, but this one really had such a profound impact of helping me understand myself. For those who are unfamiliar with Myers-Briggs, there are 16 different personality types, and they are associated into 4 different groups. So whether or not you're introverted or extroverted, intuitive or sensing, thinking or feeling, or judging and perceiving. And everyone has a unique or a combination of those, and there are 16 different options of it. On the right-hand side, you can see that the different, you actually probably can't see it because it's a little bit small, but there are different percentages of the population that fall within each bucket. I am an INTP. And so there's 3% of the population who are an INTP. And when I discovered this, I also got really interested in understanding what my family might be as well. What I discovered was I was the only introvert within my family. And so my family were very, very extroverted. I wasn't in that space. An introversion or extroversion doesn't mean I was shy. It meant that I got energy by being alone. I needed a lot of space. And they couldn't really understand why I didn't want to hang out with them all the time, or I just couldn't. I just was so exhausted. So understanding just even that small component just completely transformed my ability to communicate with them. Okay, right, actually, it's nothing to do with you. They stopped taking it personally. It's nothing to do with them. It was just how I'm wired. I need a lot more space than they do. The other thing that I learned when I did this was that my type is INTP. Actually, of my type, there are actually only 27%, which is already small percentage, that are female. So there are very few people, role models or other people in the world that I could see who were like me. My type is the scientist, and you can go away and find your own. And this isn't about learning about INTP or my type. I'm just sharing this as an example of how, having had this understanding, it actually gave me so much more empathy for myself, so much more understanding of myself. And I felt seen for the first time in almost my life. And it transformed. I went down a rabbit hole of really trying to understand everyone. I felt suddenly like this light bulb had gone off where I knew that I wasn't different from everyone, but I was different from most people. And what could be true if I learned and understood them? I learned and understood as much as I could do as possible about myself, but also about other people. And I'm now really good at spotting which Myers-Briggs type people are. It's a fun game I like to play. But in the context of this and around being female and feeling like I was this outsider, now I understand it could have been because gender norms expect women to be more emotionally expressive and nurturing. And I just wasn't in that space. I've learnt much more to lean into that, but I was very much logic oriented, not that emotionally expressive. And so I felt maybe out of sync. They're also quite rare, as I've talked about. So I didn't see it in other people potentially, and therefore felt different or misunderstood. From a communication style, and this definitely came up with my teams, but also my family, my type tends to be very direct, very analytical, and can sometimes be perceived as very cold or distant. And that obviously can have a huge impact on the quality and the shape of those relationships and the conflict. I'm not averse to conflict. I actually think it's a really healthy thing. My partner, however, and I understand more about him now, is different. He's got aversion to conflict, doesn't like it. And so having that understanding of him, having an understanding of you or anyone else outside, as well as understanding myself, has completely shifted how I'm able to interact better with people. And the last one was around non-conformity and really needing my independence and originality and rejecting some of the traditional norms, etc. So this is tool number 1 that I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest that everyone does this one, partially because I just found it so transformational. It's free, takes 5 to 10 minutes. You can pop onto the site here, and I loved what they talked about here. It's so incredible to be finally understood. That's certainly how I felt when I completed this. And you can go down a rabbit hole as you choose with any of these tools that I'm going to share to really help understand yourself a little bit better. So the second tool I'm going to talk about is love languages. This one could be applied to a romantic relationship. It also can be really helpful to understand it for your team or for your family or for anyone, frankly. There are 5 different love languages: words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, acts of service, and touch. Each of us have a different preference of the way that we like to receive love. We tend to then express our love or appreciation, if you change it, in the way that we like to receive it. It's worth knowing what your partner or your colleague or your direct report, how they like to receive appreciation, because we all have different perceptions of what we think is great. So gifts is very, very low for me as a love language, whereas words of affirmation and quality time are much, much higher. For my partner, it's all around acts of service. So him cooking for me, etc., is his way of showing me love, appreciation. And if he wants to show me appreciation, probably not best buying me a gift. Might be better telling me something nice or spending some quality time with me. So that's free. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. Another one, and I'm not suggesting that you go and do all of these tools. I'm suggesting that you choose which one from what I'm sharing feels like it resonates for you, and then you go and play around with that and explore and learn a little bit more about it so that you can learn a bit more about yourself, but also potentially those around you. So Gallup Strengths, another really, really good one. This one is paid. There are different options. I've taken a screenshot of what the prices were on the website now. They might change, I don't know. Gallup Strengths, there are essentially 34 different strengths, and everyone will have such a unique combination of these strengths, as in all 34 are ordered. Understanding your top 5 strengths is so worthwhile for everyone to do. You can also then pay more to get an understanding of all 34, the order of all 34. And that's not to just jump to the bottom to understand what are your lowest, but it can be so interesting to see in reflection to others. For me, discipline and consistency are very, very low. I mean, they may be like 32 or 30, they're in the 30s. For my partner, though, they're much, much higher. And so having that understanding of each other and the differences means that we're able to operate in a completely different way. Same with your team. You get a personalized report that articulates what, on your basis of your unique combination, what you look like. Really, really valuable exercise. Okay, this one's a bit of an out off the wall one. It's probably most suitable to anyone who is looking at doing some sort of like side hustle or starting their own like mini business. But I actually think it could be really useful for anyone to go and do and understand what they are, what their unique brand archetype might look like. There are 16 different brand archetypes. It's based on work by Carl Jung, but I went down the Kay Putnam rabbit hole and just using her, I think she calls it brandality quiz. The link is there for you to have a look at. Everyone will have one, ideally two, a combination of two of your top brand archetypes. I'm not going to talk too much more around that. I found it really, really useful to have a play if that interests. Another one that is very in vogue at the moment and is being talked about a lot, that it's probably not going to appeal to everyone because it's based on your birth information. So if you're not into astrology and that sort of thing, then possibly this is not this is not the one that you explore or dive down the rabbit hole with. It's also a big rabbit hole. This one is very quick to do, but you will see you end up with a chart, and trying to interpret and read that chart is incredibly difficult to do, but really insightful. It's one that in the last couple of months I've got really interested in. I'm yet to do a personalized reading with someone else, like to get an expert to read my own chart. I've been using ChatGPT to be able to input what's been coming up, and actually have got some really very interesting insights. And this one's all around kind of like your energy and how things that you do in your life and how you can get into more alignment. So for instance, for me, I learned that I'm a manifester and my not self theme is anger. So when I'm out of alignment, it can show up as anger. Having that awareness has enabled me to really be more conscious to when I'm feeling angry and using that as a sign of, oh, actually, what's not going on? What's not quite right here? So very interesting rabbit hole should you want to. DISC, it's used a lot for teams. It's a really interesting one. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but there's 4 different measures. There's free versions that you can explore. I'll go on with that. There's some other ones, Enneagram, 4 tendencies, emotional intelligence, Colby. There's heaps of these different personality profiling tools. So you can go about and explore which ones resonate with you. My recommendation is, as I said, not to do them all. Pick 1 or 2 that you want to explore and dive into those. One of the best ways that I've found to fast track my understanding of them was using ChatGPT. You can ask the question, imagine you're a, let's say, human design expert. What are the 10 best questions I could ask ChatGPT to really help me understand my type? You could insert that for whatever it is that you're exploring, whether or not it's Myers-Briggs or anything else. There's obviously lots of resources out there, but ChatGPT I found has been very interesting and very useful to speed up my learning and understanding. You can also provide context, so insert your own report there. This is where I talk about the data piece. So if that is a concern to you, you can operate from your own values. For me, I'm not that concerned. I might be proven wrong, but that was one reason that you might not want to use it. And you can also use it to summarize your insights. So I have done a lot of these things over the last 5 years. And so now I know all of the ones that I've talked about. I put all of that into ChatGPT and asked it to summarize what this person would be. And what came out was absolutely fascinating, so useful and so insightful. I then got creative and decided, put that into a poem, describe that person in a poem. Again, really fun exercise. And something like that can help you actually embed and apply what you've discovered about yourself. Again, something that you can also use to understand people around you as well. So if anyone who spent more time with me or have worked with me will have had me asking about them, and I will have gone away and done some research around them, not so that I can judge them in any way, more so I can understand how I can operate best with them. It gives me just a completely different level of understanding and empathy for the people around me. The point of this is to give you some ideas of tools that you might want to use to really continue to dive into that, who am I? Leaning more into the power of it and not into the pitfalls. So what we don't want to do and what we definitely want to avoid is drawing limiting beliefs associated with, okay, I've found out that I am a P versus a J and a Myers-Briggs, which basically means that a P doesn't necessarily usually like plans or rules. And so having that understanding, whereas a J does, P is perceiving, J is judging, having that could mean that I avoid plans and rules. And if I really took it to the extreme, I could avoid plans and rules to the extremes. Actually, what that understanding means for me is that I surround myself with J's. So now, if you've met her within my team, she is a J, and it means she's really organized. It enables me to lean into her strengths. Same with my partner. He is a planner. He organizes our life in a way that I could do if I lent into, because I'm not putting myself in a box of not being a planner, but it just takes much more energy for me to do that. And I've given you some ideas as to how you can fast track your understanding of them. Final tips. Enjoy it. This is an exploration journey, so enjoy it. Take whatever from it serves, leaves whatever doesn't. If any of them aren't, singing to you, or you aren't interested in doing an Enneagram or a human design or something, don't. If there's pieces that you learn from, or there's insights that come up in them that you don't align to, leave it. It's fine. And really don't let this limit your thinking, but utilize it as an opportunity to expand your thinking, expand your self-appreciation for yourself, but also your appreciation and understanding of those around you. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, as I say, would absolutely love to hear and learn more about you. Take what serves, leave what doesn't, and I will see you soon. So I hope you found that a useful episode. Now, I'm not going to lie, no one has the time to take every single one of those. Heck, I'm a personality profiling geek, and there's some in there that even I haven't done myself. But I do recommend picking one and diving into that. Now, I might be biased. Okay, I'm definitely biased. But having spent years studying and obsessing about personality profiles and coaching hundreds of leaders, I started to notice that there are a lot of patterns that could be simplified even further into 3 different types of leader. Each of us is essentially a unique combination of these 3 types: purpose, performance, and well-being. Now, there are more videos on that in this channel, that you can check them out here. But if you want a totally free 2-minute way to build your self-awareness, then I'm suggesting that you start by taking this quiz. You're going to find the link to do that alongside the other tools in the comments. And with that, it's a wrap. Please like and subscribe if you found this video at all helpful. It really does help more than you could possibly know. See you soon.